Welcome to the Facebook Business Refresh for 2022. I'm Dante and James, your Facebook lead trainer and community trainer with Meta Australia, as well as the Digital Solutions Program, thanks to the Australian Government and Business Station. I'm going to share my screen and get it underway. I think there's going to be something in here for everybody. Don't be too worried if we don't go into the nuts and bolts and mechanics of how to use everything in Business Manager and Ads Manager and all that. Well, we're going to look at some of the bigger picture stuff that's going to make your road a little bit easier. Also, a bit of a review of what's really working on Facebook right now. Not just, looking at, oh, should I be doing live videos? We're going to look very specifically at the things that are going to be important to you as you start using Facebook more this year. And you probably will start using it a little bit more. Surprisingly, rumors of Facebook's death are grossly exaggerated. It's certainly just as alive and well as it's always been. Let's get underway. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program from the Australian Government. And we'll be recording this so you can watch it on YouTube a little bit later on. And you can get that on both the the Business Station YouTube channel, as well as my own one. Just look for my name, Dante St. James, or Business Station, and you'll be able to view this in the next 24 hours. Who this is for is those who are new to Facebook. Probably not that many people who are new to it, to be honest, but there might be some. Those who are established with using Facebook, those who are wanting to know what's new, and those who are curious about what else is there to look at, including a bit of a look at the metaverse. So what we're going to cover: what's working on Facebook, the creative considerations of getting the most out of it these days, what priority content is there. And that's really important because you want to give yourself all the chances possible to get as much of an audience developed as you can. And then we'll look at the whole metaverse thing and what that means for the future of small business too. First up, a little bit about me. I am a Meta and Facebook lead trainer for Australia and globally, as well as being a digital marketing associate, community manager, creative strategy professional, and media planning and buying professional with Facebook Australia and New Zealand. My studies have been at University of New South Wales, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, TAFE, New South Wales, even though I've got a lot of New South Wales in there. I don't live in New South Wales at all. I'm actually in Queensland at the moment, but live in the Northern Territory. I'm also an accredited professional with LinkedIn, and recently started up Startup Territory, which is a new pre-accelerator program for those who happen to be in the Northern Territory. If you're not, don't worry, there's tons of them in your states as well. So first up, I want to address the elephant in the room, this name change, this Meta thing that's just popped up out of nowhere. You might be getting confused. Should we be calling it Meta now, or is it not called Facebook? Everything is pretty much as it was. There's no changes to any of the individual product names. It's just a company name change. In the same way that Google renamed itself Alphabet, and that's now the company name, and Google's just a product of the Alphabet company. Same way, Meta is the company name. So Facebook, Instagram, Oculus, WhatsApp, Novi, and all those other brands are still just part of the Meta company. So there's no changes to your apps. There's no changes to what you're going to call it. Just keep referring to it as Facebook. I'll be referring to things interchangeably depending on the context. So if you hear Meta from me, it's because I'm talking about the company, not the actual product. So this particular information I'm getting from you is based upon studies from Meta and their transparency reports. Also from HubSpot have been very closely monitoring their relationship and what they've noticed is working and not working on the Facebook family of apps these days. CrowdTangle is actually a Meta product, and it's the way for journalists and students to be able to dig into the anonymized and aggregated data of what's coming out of the Facebook family of apps. University of New South Wales and the Australian National University have also provided a lot of data for this, as has Google, funnily enough. These companies do actually happen to work together from time to time. So what's been working on Facebook, particularly over the last 12 months? Is there a pattern to what's working? Is there priority content? That's what we're going to be looking at. When it comes down to what's working on Facebook, we've got to look at what the source of newsfeed content views is. So this is not what's going in. This is what people are actually seeing. And we see some very big patterns in here. By far and above the majority is posts from friends and family and the people that they follow. So when you're following people, not pages, not groups, that represents 54.4% of what you're going to see in your newsfeed at the moment. Then that's followed closely, not closely at all, 17.8% by posts from groups that you've joined. So that's the stuff that you've opted in to groups and you're conversational with them, you're interacting with them as well. The key though there is the groups that you're going to see the most of are the ones that you interact with the most, the ones you like the posts of the most, the ones that you post in the most, the ones that you have reactions from and post comments in as well. These are the ones that you're going to see a lot more of. The same goes for pages. So you might think that nobody's seeing what's in your pages. That's because nobody is already interacting with what's on your pages. There's some pages I see tons of content coming through from, and they're not big recognized names either. They're the actual pages that I happen to interact with the most. So they're the things I'm seeing a lot of on my feed. Then we get down to what we call unconnected posts. So those are posts, say, from things that are experiments. They're things that Facebook's throwing by and saying, you haven't had any interaction with this page in a long time. I'll throw back a bit of throwback here to see if you're interested, because something new's come up that we think you might have some kind of level of interest in. And then the smaller part is the other. So that could be things like just really random stuff that, for instance, is shared by people that you are connected to, or the friends of friends that you're not connected to them, but you're connected to their friend. That kind of thing coming up as well. But the key thing is here that most stuff on your feed is from family and friends, actual individual people that you follow, then groups, then pages. So pages aren't being throttled back. It's just that friends and the people that you follow, that's the stuff that's being prioritized on the feed. So bear that in mind as we move to the next one, which is the news feed content views from viewers. So what this means is essentially the kind of stuff that you're going to see on your news feed and the format of that. So we're looking mostly at content views on posts with no links, includes videos, includes images, it includes galleries, it includes carousels, everything but things that have a link. So what we're seeing here is that 86.5% of the material showing on your feed is not stuff that has links. So if you're just linking to your website all the time and to your blog, you're linking to your product pages on your e-commerce site, or you're linking to any web page on the internet whatsoever, it's showing up in that the darker blue bit. Okay, the content views on posts with links, and content views with links excluding the most viewed news domain. So that means that like just average everyday stuff is showing up to 13.2%, but links from the most viewed news domains. So we're talking about news.com.au, smh.com.au, Courier Mail, the West Australian, all those different newspapers. Those kind of links are showing up less than everything else. And that's a very big thing to remember, is if you're going to share links, you've actually got a bit of an advantage over the big news carriers, because not much of their stuff is sharing. And when it does get shared, it's not getting viewed that much. Facebook really doesn't want to be at the core of news anymore. They've got so much trouble with it. They just want to stay away from it. So you're not going to see a lot of that stuff. And you probably notice all that political stuff we were seeing back in 2016, 2017, that's not really present on Facebook anymore. It's a very different network. We're seeing a lot more different kind of stuff coming through. And as you can see here, just blindly linking to studies, blindly linking to political material, blindly linking to newspaper articles, that sort of stuff isn't getting anywhere. It's content that doesn't include links to other places. It's the stuff that is the vast majority of material on Facebook's feed. And then we would start to look at the content from pages. So this is from business pages based on their format. So the views that are being got from pages, just like your business page or my business page, the stuff that's doing the best is almost half of it is video. So video is the thing that's performing best overall, followed by what we call formatted text. And that's going to make a lot more sense very shortly when I show you what format text look like. Then there's gallery, which is 14%. That's 2 or more images posted at the same time. That performs remarkably better than just a single photo, which also performs better than links or text. So just adding links and just saying, hey, here's a link to an article, here's a link to something that's interesting, that sort of stuff just isn't getting seen anymore on the feed. Video is, Formatted text to a lesser degree is, and then even less than that is galleries. So the message there for us is very much so that video is king. Formatted text and gallery are also significant, but just sharing single photos from your from your business page, or just a link to something, or just plain text isn't going to get very far. That's because people are just generally not interested in that kind of thing. We create the Facebook that we see, and by far and above, the Facebook that people want to see contains video and funny stuff. And I've got some more information about that a little further down the track. So what were the top 10 pieces of content on Facebook in 2021? Was it Naz Daly's video, a Simon Sinek inspirational video? No, the top 10 pieces of content in 2021 were these things. And you'll be very surprised, but then again, not. They all start to look really, really familiar, huh? This is what I call formatted text. So most of these are just images. So you wouldn't think they would do that well. But what they've done is created them in their profiles and then posted it as a photo that's just asking for an interaction. So that's number 1 and number 2. Number 3 and number 4. We're starting to get a real pattern here. Number 5 and number 6. So finally, we've got something a little bit different, which is just a thing that a radio station has done, which is just the 4 words every girl wants to hear whispered in her ear. So they're asking for your opinion. They're asking for your feedback. They're asking for you to play a game. And this is the gamification of the feed. And we've seen so much of this stuff popping up in the last year since Facebook started turning down news and started turning up things that our friends are starting to interact with more. This is what we're seeing so much of. What is one movie you're confident you've seen at least 10 times? Well, for me, it'd have to be anything from Star Wars, pretty much. I've seen many times. So then I'm very confident I could fill that out. Everyone can relate to it because everyone's seen the movies. And it continues on more and more. What has ears but doesn't listen? I saw this one come up about 2 weeks ago myself. And who the heck sleeps with a fan and the AC on? I don't sleep with a fan on, but I do sleep with the AC on. So I've got opinions on this. I'll put a message in there and therefore I'll see it. And as this thinkerette lifestyle has been like probably the biggest of all the pages in the world when it comes to the success of the posts they make. They show up again and again and again. As I move through these, you've got radio stations, thinkerette lifestyle again, thinkerette lifestyle, another radio station. So there's tons of them. They are the most engaged with page on the planet. So what have these things got all in common apart from them being very ugly and appearing to be very uncreative? Well, what they've really got in common with them is that they tap into nostalgia. You know, the movies you've gone to see, the thing that was once around that isn't. I saw one today. What's a brand of candy or a brand of chocolate that's not around anymore that you used to love? And a lot of Aussies were saying the polywaffle because you don't see that anymore. Or some people were saying the disgusting choo-choo bar, which I can't understand why someone would like that. Or they saw like the White Knight, which was like a peppermint thing that you used to be able to get in show bags back in the 1980s and maybe 1990s. Or they're looking at emotion. They're giving you an emotional response. What's the one thing, 4 words that she wants whispered in her ear? And you think, well, emotionally, that's it would be something to do with, yes, I love you, or something like that. It's tapping into those emotional things that come from, yes, our everyday life. These memes, these themes, they all come out of everyday life. They come out of the things that you and I go through all the time. So I could do something like who can't sleep without air movement, without a fan on. That's something which so many people can relate to. I had a partner many years ago who could not sleep unless there was a fan blowing directly on the face all the time. And that was something which annoyed me because I didn't need air movement going on. Or you look at things like, who's the snorer in your relationship? You ask questions like that, and they're the kind of things that do get a response. Now, of course, this ties into the quirkiness of humanity. But how does this tie into your business? You could ask all these really funky questions. You can ask all these interesting little memes and post all these things, but how do they tie into growing your actual business? I've got some ideas about this I'm going to show you a little bit later on, and some formats that work really well on Facebook, particularly in the last 12 months. So what does all this tell us about what people want to view on Facebook, what people actually want to see on Facebook? What it tells us is that there's a great deal of popularity when it comes to hearing from your family and friends, from your interest groups, which you'll get through groups. Local information pages are massively followed and massively interacted with, and fun and entertainment stuff that's going to make us sit for a second, be entertained, and laugh. I must admit, I get caught on dodo videos on Facebook all the time. Rescue dogs, just about always rescue dogs, rescue cats, rescue ducks, rescue moose sometimes. Anything that's to do with animals being rescued or cute animals being interacted with seems to get my attention and keep it. So that fun and entertainment's in there. Local info pages, particularly when there's a cyclone season or storm season, wherever you happen to be, become very important sources of information. Interest groups such as the Kath and Kim Appreciation Society, which I'm a part of, and it's my most engaged with page. Second one is the Kmart Unhacks and Roasts page. Group that I interact with quite a lot. And then there's your family and friends, wanting to interact with the people you know and love all around the world, especially in times when you can't see them quite as much as you wish you could. So that's pretty obvious. Unfortunately, the type of stuff that's produced by business pages is more like this. It's more like promotion. It's about the business. It's listing all the features of products. It's got heavy use of emojis because apparently emojis make people want to look at your posts, which is probably not true anymore. I think the overuse of emojis now makes stuff look like spam. So that's the kind of stuff we're producing as businesses, where instead of those other things, which are very much about the person, the customer, the average everyday person, we want to put forward product information and service information and links to buy a product and links to book our services, none of which are the things that people seem to be following. None of those are the things that people are interacting with. So we've got a bit of a dissonance there. We've got a problem, is that this is what people want and this is what we want to do. And those things are just missing each other all the time. There's not really a way that they're sort of meeting. And it feels like so few businesses are able to tap in this and do it well, where they can tie in popular themes with something that actually relates to their business. So I've got some great ideas coming up that are going to probably give you a bit more of an idea. How can you be promotional, but still deliver what it is that people love about the internet and about meme culture and about being on Facebook? How can you do it? Well, what you've got to do is give yourself a chance to relate to people where they're at in their lives before you start going for the sale. So the example here I'm going to use for handmade jewelry. A particular handmade jewelry company, fictional one, will make some beautiful jewelry, and they have to really, to reach people, understand what we call the customer journey. And the customer journey is all about going from awareness through to consideration and conversion. This might seem really, really very familiar to you. If you are using the Facebook ads platform, you'll see these objectives that come up at the beginning of the ads process. Awareness gives you things like, brand awareness and reach. Consideration ads tend to be around linking, going to websites, installing apps, landing page views, that kind of thing, and lead generation. And conversion tends to be just sales or store traffic, that kind of stuff. So what we're talking about here, though, is a very real part of the customer's journey. Before they get on the Facebook, before they're going to click on something to buy it, where are they going? And the example I'm using for the handmade jewelry is, yes, awareness, consideration, and conversion that ties into who they are and where they're at in life. So how do we do that? How do we look at awareness and go, well, how do I pick out where people are in life? But using all those sort of things we saw from what's working on Facebook right now, those very quick statements, witty things, asking questions, getting in behind, the nostalgia or the quirky human nature that we've got. And then looking at the consideration, what gets someone to start considering you when they're looking for what it is you do. So let's look at this handmade jewelry and an example I've given for you. So something that's very similar that asks a question and gets in behind there is, what does your partner do that makes you feel loved? Or even down to as close as, what makes you feel loved? That would be where I would start. Is it the awareness stage before someone even knows who you are? You've got to get them interested and get their attention. A beautiful photo, a beautiful video will do that. It will grab their attention. Then what we do is bring in the question. We're not even ready to start branding this thing yet. We just want to get the question because we want people to interact with this. Once they interact with it, they can see who actually posted in the first place, happen upon some beautiful handmade jewelry, and then the whole history is made where you suddenly get people coming in to buy your jewelry because you got their attention with something about them, not about you, but about them. So it feels, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? How do I take this on a journey? The next stage of that journey, which is going to be the consideration where people are shopping around now for what it is you do, and you're now one of the people they consider, you can push forward something that looks a bit like this. Every piece is one of a kind, just like you. So again, we're talking about the customer. We're showing the customer, not showing you. We're not showing your brand. We're not forcing the brand down their throat. What we're doing is showing what they're looking for, handmade jewelry, an option of that, and how it relates to them, but also including a human in there because, as I'll show later on, that's actually important and helps with conversions and helps to keep your cost per click of ads down and your rate of clicks for posts up higher, as when you have the example of it being worn rather than just a piece of jewelry sitting on a white background on its own. That may work for Shopify and it may work for catalog ads, it may work for Amazon, but it does not work for when you're trying to post social media. And then as we move down to the conversion stage, we now look at that jewelry itself and we still tie it back to the customer, not to ourselves, her design, her favorite colors. So we're talking about her or about them, delivered in time for Valentine's. So again, here's the value to them. So in here, this is not an ad that we're showing. This is just a concept. I'm going to show you what these ads will look like in a second on the mobile newsfeed. So once we've got all those through, we want to tie into emotion and everyday life and make it all about them. An ad could look something like this. Have you heard of love languages? What love language do you and your partner have? And it's got a question there and another question. What do they do that makes you feel loved? So it's inviting response. Now, you could put this up today or tomorrow and it could get no response at all because your clients, your customers, your followers are not used to you posting stuff like this where they know that they can interact with it. So it's going to take a while. It's also going to take a while for Facebook algorithm to go, what's this new stuff you're doing? This is different. This is not what you usually do. Now, I've done this in an example of an ad because I can do mock-ups on ads through Facebook. So this could just as easily be a post. So it's just asking that question, what do they do that makes you loved? And then you can answer down there when they do the dishes, when they take out the trash without being prompted. You know, you're going to get a lot of smart aleck answers like that, or you might get some really deep and meaningful stories. And these stories give you the fodder for what to make your next lot of campaigns and posts about. When you start to get those stories, and some of them are funny, some of them are engaging, some of them are a little bit rude and risque, you get all these ideas that you can put into your next post that will get tons of attention. Watch for the ones that are responses that everybody's laughing at and loving and reacting at, and you'll be able to see what are the ones to turn into posts next time. At the next stage down, where we're looking at that second image, the one of a kind, less stress, less consumption, less drama, more of the things that matter, more you. So we're still not talking about going and buying jewelry. We're just saying, here's the jewelry. You can work it out. We're smart enough. We can work out this thing's selling jewelry. There's a shop now button on there. So we know that it's jewelry that you can buy, but it's still not talking about the jewelry. It's talking about the person who's going to wear it, the person who wants less stress, who's looking at more consumption. They might be a conscious consumer. They want less drama in their lives because it's a new year, less drama in 2022, more of the things that matter, the more of me, because, you know, New Year's all about me, and all those kind of feelings we tie into at this time of the year, we're looking at in this particular post or in this particular ad. And again, every piece of wording there is talking about the customer. Reflect your nature and your world your way. We're not talking about reflect your nature and your world by buying our jewelry. We're saying reflect your nature and your world your way. It just so happens that there's some jewelry here which is made more attractive by the words we've used. And we've used the nostalgia, you know, we've used the emotion. All those words are quite emotive, the quirkiness of humanity, because you're one of a kind, you're unique. And, you know, we may be looking like everybody else wearing the same boho outfit, but it doesn't matter. We still feel like we're one of a kind because the ad and the post is actually telling us that we are one of a kind. Then we move further down the funnel to the actual time we want them to buy. Her design, her colors delivered by Valentine's. Saying words like, if she's not a shopping center jewelry shop kind of girl, then don't treat her like one. that's going to really stand out to a guy who's buying something for Valentine's, or a girl who's buying something for her partner on Valentine's. Because then you look and go, you know what? That's right. She isn't a shopping center jewelry shop kind of girl. She's not a Michael Hill jeweler or, Prouds kind of girl. She wants something a little bit unique, something a bit different, because she's not really into diamonds. And a lot of younger people just don't care about diamonds. They just want something that they think looks pretty and is very much them and about who they are. So that whole idea, choose your design, choose your stones, choose delivery. It's inviting you to shop now, but it's giving you reasons to shop now because it's her design, her colors, and it can be delivered by Valentine's as well. Whilst it's promotional, it's also emotional. It's also getting into that quirkiness of her humanity. And it's all about them, not about you and your product. But it's still very clear that this is something you can buy without it saying buy this now. It already says shop now. It's got a call to action on there. You don't have to write in another call to action to force them to go forth. This is what we're talking about, of tying in the things that work really well on Facebook, like all those formatted text articles you're seeing and a lot of the great videos, and recreating that, but within the context of your product. So you don't have to go so far as asking, do you button up on the left or button up on the right? And why do women have to button up on the left instead of the right? And asking all these like male versus female things that are not really relevant for what your business is. You're able to then pull out the things that are relevant to you, like her desire to be beautiful, her desire to design her own jewelry and to get the colors of stones that she wants to get, and the tying in that, it's all about love and what makes you feel loved, what makes him feel loved, talking about love language, all the things that bring emotion into it and bring the humanity into it. So we bring those words into these ads and these posts, and suddenly we're not just talking into the void. We're not just talking to ourselves and constantly just yelling, buy my stuff. We're actually saying, hey, stop and think for a minute. What is it that makes you feel loved? The emotions will turn on, the dopamine will get hit in the head, and then suddenly the flowing out of things like comments, sharing, all that stuff starts to happen, but it won't happen overnight. This is not going to happen the very first time you do it, because no one's used to you doing it, and the algorithm is certainly not used to you doing it yet. But once you do it and you do something different, that's when the algorithm goes, oh, I'm going to try this out because they haven't done this before. And this is more like the kind of stuff that these people are starting to interact with. I might just send it out to a few more people this time, and bang, you've suddenly got a bigger audience. So what should we consider when we're producing content for a very mobile world in 2022? What are the things that we need to look at that take into account that we're mostly looking on mobiles these days? First thing you've got to do is showcase your brand early and often, especially in videos. You've got 3 seconds to make an impact. So you either put your product or your brand in front very, very quickly, and then continue it on. After that 3 seconds is over, you may have a 1 minute video that you're playing. So you might say, okay, in 1 minute, I need to show my brand in some way. So, okay, I might show it on a coffee cup. I might show it on a t-shirt if it's the kind of brand that's doing that. Product placement is another way of doing it, ensuring that your logo, or that at least your product, it's very clear that your product is there. We've all sort of seen those ads sometimes, and I think that the high-end jewelry companies seem to do this. There was a Cartier ad that was on at the movies when I last went to see the movies. And for the entire ad, it was just a bunch of celebrities yelling out something. And I don't know what it was they were yelling out, but they were yelling it out, and they were dressed up, and they seemed to be wearing jewelry and watches and all that. And I thought, I have no idea what they're advertising, until the end. It said Cartier. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what it was, to do with Cartier watches and jewelry. I would never have guessed that throughout that whole ad. So they had my attention for 40 seconds or something like that as this ad played, but I had no idea who this was because they didn't tell me straight up. So I sort of, tuned out a little bit until the end. It's like, oh, that's who it is. Okay, well, I can't afford that anyway, so why bother? So making sure you get your brand and the point in the very first 3 seconds is vitally important, because it'll help someone to go, yes, I am interested, or no, I am not. If I'm not, I tune out. If I am, I will watch this just a little bit longer. So making sure you get that attention, and then making sure you reaffirm that brand name and that brand position or that product throughout the ad in various points. If it's a logo on a bottle of water, if it's a logo on a t-shirt, or it's something that ties back to what your brand that appears throughout that. The next one is designing for the sound being off. This is like when you're waiting in a queue for, I don't know, for coffee, or these days waiting for a COVID test, waiting for a COVID vaccine in a long line. People don't generally have their phones on unless they're one of those people in the airport who just happens to like want to have every conversation in another language loud and on speakerphone in the middle of the airport while we're all tired and waiting for an overnight flight. You wouldn't think that I had that personal experience at all, would you? And it's just the idea that most people are sitting here with their phones and they're not actually using their phones on speakerphone. They've either got them in earbuds or they're just not listening at all. They're just watching. So this is why you should always produce video that's made for sound being off. Assume that people are going to have the sound off and they're not going to hear what you have to say or hear what the music is or hear the words you're saying. Have some way for people to understand what it is you're all about without having to listen to you. If they're very, very interested in having a look at you, they may go back, repeat it, and turn the sound on. But the most likely thing is that they won't do that. And if you want to get your message across to them, you're going to have visuals that are stimulating and interesting, but also not too many ideas coming out, but just one big idea in that one ad. Let's just say it's a video that goes for 15 seconds. There's only so much you can say in 15 seconds. So what you need to do is make sure that that one big idea that you've got in there, that one big product, one big service you're trying to work out in your ad is going to come across abundantly clear so everybody will know exactly what it is you're talking about. So sound being on or off, sorry, now we're going to help you to stand out for all the right reasons. The things that help you to stand out with video or with photos and graphics is color. Really good use of color. Bright colors, your yellows, your oranges, your reds. They're great for standing out. Even a hot pink is going to stand out in that feed. Remember, the feed is mostly blacks, whites, blues, and grays. So anything that has a pop of really good color to it that isn't related to the blacks, whites, blues, and grays is going to be great. So when we're looking at the hot pinks, the very sort of magenta-y kind of purples, all of those in blocks of color or in gradients between one color and another. At the moment, there's some really nice gradients running from yellow through to red and others that are running from pink through to blue. That's my preferred gradient, is actually pink to blue. I think it looks fantastic. It looks eye-catching, and with the right graphics to go on there as well, it's something which really grabs attention. The other one is motion. Motion always grabs attention because there's not a lot of it on the feed. Even though there's a lot of videos going out there, we flick past some of them so quickly we don't even see that they are videos. We just see that they happen to be just a piece of, a piece of content that looks like an ad. So we skip over it. So if you've got something which immediately goes into motion, doesn't just sort of start a video, which is just a talking head, it actually has motion with it. Really good, solid, maybe it's a spinning wheel of color or it's a paint splotch or something that's going to get attention to make someone at least notice it enough to want to stop and see the rest of that video. In the case of color on the feed, using those bright colors will draw the eye enough to be able to go, what is that? And then they move on, especially if you look at the danger colors. We're evolutionarily geared towards the danger colors of yellow and red. So yellow and red are very, very strong. That's why, McDonald's, yellow and red. They have that combination. KFC, red. Hungry Jack's, red. Red Rooster, red. Just about every takeaway place has a combination yellow, red. Even Guzman and Gomez, the Mexican taco place, is yellow. So those colors are very much get attention, get in the head, go, oh yeah, we now associate those colors with food and with nutrition and with getting our feed and satisfying cravings and urges. So those kind of colors can also be used for you to get attention for your products and services too. And then the motion, using motion is always going to get attention, particularly when most of the feed is photos and shared graphics. You're not going to really have much trouble standing out as long as you've got some video motion in there. Now, what I want to talk about is striking a balance between content and time. And bear in mind, this is a live Zoom, and I've got quite a few people on the Zoom call right now. Feel free to ask questions along the way. I'd love to be able to answer them because I know that you've probably got 100 ideas you want to try out, and I'd love to be able to chat to you about those, or at least talk to those a little bit for you as well. And you can always leave some messages afterwards. I've got an email address. You can send details through to me or get in touch with me through LinkedIn as well. Striking a balance between content and time is this thing that we've got as small business owners, that we love to tell everybody everything about what we do because we're proud of it. We've worked hard on it. Of course, we want to tell people all about it. The problem is, though, we've got maybe 15 seconds with which to get that thing done. 3 seconds to get attention, 15 to get it over and done with. But we've probably got about 2 hours worth of talking points to go over. You know, I can talk. I'm on a 1-hour webinar right now, and I can talk underwater with a mouthful of golf balls. But in your case, what you need is to get that message out in 15 seconds. Whether it's in radio, an old program director boss of mine used to say that if you can't say it in 15 seconds, then it's probably not worth saying at all. So how do you get that down? It means locking into what's most important first, launching with that, whether it's your product, your brand, your offer, launch with it straight away in the first few seconds so people know what they're looking at. Then we start moving on to everything else. We start moving on to, the details of the price or something like that, which is less important. As long as we launch with what's important, it leaves us the rest of that 15 seconds, usually around about 12 seconds to work with, in which we can, entice people more into what the product is. So just make sure that everything you can do can fit in the 15 seconds, because the attention span of the modern person on a mobile phone, and that's where most people are consuming this stuff, is very, very low. Now build for where people are. If people are on a mobile, produce your material in the mobile format, making sure that you got everything in the vertical rather than the horizontal. The problem with the horizontal is that not everyone's going to be watching stuff like that unless they're absolutely forced to watch like that. Most of us are consuming it with the phone up. We're not geared to really wanting to turn the phone around. We like to hold it upright. So understand that if that's the way people will consume your material, that's the way you need to produce the material, in vertical, on mobile format. What a lot of people call, sorry, I've got like a massive earache at the moment, and it's actually causing me to have a bit of a pain through my jaw and throat. So I need to keep drinking a lot. The mobile phone format is that vertical format, or what we call stories format. So there's a reason why stories now are outperforming the feed on Instagram, is because simply this is the way we're now consuming everything. The whole screen experience is what we want to get hold of. The other thing to be very, very mindful of is that people are in dark places, people are in bright places. If they're in dark places, having something suddenly brighten up on the screen isn't just going to get their attention, it's going to get their attention in all the wrong ways and make them go away with it. Or if they're in a very bright situation, having very, very strong contrast in what you're doing. So there's not a lot of vagues, not a lot of, the worst thing you can watch when you're in bright sunlight is something that's filmed very dark, and it's very, very dark filming. They quite often do that in, mysterious movies and thrillers, have a lot of very dark filming. Game of Thrones is a perfect example of that. You really need to not watch that in bright light, because so much of it's in the dark that it's very hard to view a lot of it in the sunlight. So bearing in mind that people are often outdoors when they're on mobile phones, on the move, they don't have control over their environment and their mood lighting. Understand that contrast is important. Understand that strong colors are important, and understand that this is the way that people are using mobile phones, not like this on the side. Next up, experiment, have a bit of fun. Probably the worst thing you can ever do is just get in a rut and do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. The whole point of a new year for me is it's the ability to be able to reset. It gives you a few days off where you can just go, you know what? I'm so sick of doing this stuff. It's not working. I'm just doing it over and over again, and it just does not seem to be doing what I really want to do. So what can I do to make that work better? Well, I'm going to try something new. So that something new could be filming something. It could be, getting a little bit less comfortable with where you're at right now. And that's something which I'm going to probably, harp on about a lot, is that we need to get out of our comfort zones. If you're very used to producing a Canva graphic with a quote from a very famous person, and that's what you do every single Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, then it's time to rock the boat a little bit, because let's face it, that stuff hasn't been working for you for a long time. So it's time to start experimenting. Experiments are great. If you feel like you're a bit fearful experimenting too much because people won't know what you're doing, or they'll feel bad about what you're doing, here's something you can try, right? just simply just change it one thing a week from what you're doing. If you're posting 3 or 4 times a week, change one of those posts to something completely different. Different colors, different themes, different language, different, I don't know, different something. Maybe if you're used to doing live videos, don't do a live video, do something pre-recorded. If you're used to doing pre-recorded, do a live. Just whatever it is, do something you don't normally do. So it gives the algorithm something new. And it's which the algorithm just says, this is different, this is new, this is more like what people are wanting to view. Oh, okay, I'm going to push that to more people now because this is following a better idea. Facebook loves an experiment, and they love people who do experiment with the types of processes, the types of posts, the types of formats they're working with. And it just means that they've got something new to work with instead of just another Canva graphic. And I don't want to bash Canva because I use it. In fact, this presentation is completely done on Canva. So I don't want to, bash at that at all. I get asked all the time, is there such thing as priority content when it comes to Facebook or any social media for that matter? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is priority styles of content that are going to be getting you a lot further. Remember probably about 5 years ago when live video first came out, and it was like anyone who did a live video, they would get tens of thousands of views and tons of people watching because it was a priority format on the feed. It's no longer a priority format on the feed. There's lots of other things. And remember, we might have looked, if you were in one of the earlier parts of my webinar, you would have seen that video is by far the stuff that gets the most views on the Facebook news feed, followed by the formatted text or the backgrounds with the text with the big words on it, and the gallery is next. Galleries of images, 2, 3, 4 images, rather than just the one single photo. So if we bear in mind that these are the things that are most viewed, then we've got to understand probably that these are the things that are probably prioritized a lot more on the feed, right? And you would be about right. Priority content is that which brings the most engagement to any sort of social media platform, or is created using priority tools. So we're looking at either stuff which is the most engaging, or it's using the tools that Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or LinkedIn are bringing in that they think are very high value, high priority tools for them. LinkedIn did this recently. They created stories that were only available on the mobile. They prioritized those to make sure people got a lot more views of them. The problem was that nobody cared about them because so many people on LinkedIn still use the desktop and not the mobile. So very few people were seeing them. They've now taken those away. So stories are no longer available on LinkedIn, but they are available on the social networks, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, even YouTube has got a version of stories that they call shorts, which is turning more into what Instagram Reels and TikTok is right now. So unsurprisingly, if we look at what the priority areas are for Facebook and Instagram, right now it's short format videos. In Instagram, they call those Reels. Reels will come to Facebook at some point. They're going to be first be tested out in some groups. It's in US only at the moment, but it is gradually rolling out to the rest of the world as a test. So Reels will be a Facebook Reels and an Instagram Reels that you can use in both of those. That is by far and above the highest priority stuff on Facebook and Instagram is short video, especially on Instagram Reels. That is the highest priority stuff they've got. If you are used to posting videos on Instagram, switch over and turn them into vertically oriented Reels, because that's where you're going to get even more views than anywhere else. The other one is groups on Facebook. That's where the priority is on Facebook. They're all about connecting people privately in the things they love with the people they feel safe with. So groups have just taken off out of this world, by far and above working better than the reach for pages, business pages, or even social pages. So groups are where it really has to be on Facebook. Then we pop over to Instagram, and stories are still performing really well. In fact, stories are now starting to perform better than what the Instagram feed is. At some point about a year ago, I stopped viewing the Instagram feed and scrolling up as the first thing I did coming into Instagram. Now what I do, I go straight to the little row of bubbles at the top and I tap on those. That's where I start my journey with Instagram every single time. And it wasn't where I used to go. I used to scroll up through the feed, but now they've made this stories so much more interesting, and the content that people produce on stories is so much more interesting than the boring selfie stuff that goes on in the feed, that I just go straight for that. So we're expecting at some point that will become even more prominent by having 2 rows of stories material before you get to the feed. In fact, it may get to the point where the feed is completely removed and it's just going with stories and reels, because reels are that much important to it. Whilst it's no longer not as big as TikTok when it comes to the short format video, it's certainly a very big part of Instagram right now, and will very shortly be a big part of Facebook as well. Overall, what we're looking for, and a good move for you as a business owner with a Facebook page, is to actually pull back on your posting. We want less posting, but we want more quality. So it means producing less, but doing better with what you are producing. So if you're producing 7 posts a week, pull it back to 3, and just to make sure those posts are much better than what you normally do. Spend a bit more time on them. Instead of spending the time doing 7 really, really average posts, do 3 really good ones. And what do 3 really good ones look like? Well, that's all the stuff we've been talking about, stuff that gets attention, stuff that follows the customer journey, stuff that understands that people need an emotional connection through to you, not just a sales message. I know that we've been going through, people go through all these sales gurus, these Kerwin Rays and these Grant Cardones and all these guys who've made a fortune out of training people to do things that they do. That's not how algorithms on social media work. Algorithms on social media work with actual people reacting to things. And those kind of tricks that those kind of guys use, I think they come and go so quickly that they need to change all their models so quickly. And they don't. They just keep selling the same, the same stuff over and over again. As someone who actually works with these platforms very directly, I can tell you now that there's no tricks to this. It's just simply following the data and following the suggestions that Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn give you on how to better connect through to people. There's no conspiracy here. There's no secrets here. Anyone who's selling, Facebook ads secret courses or any of that, none of that stuff is going to help you to sell more. Just going through Facebook's own blueprint training, which is free, will do that for you. If you're paying for Facebook training, I would suggest you just pull back from it now, because it's probably not going to get you any further. You're just going to waste more time, money, get more confused, and not really understand what's going to work for you. The sort of stuff that is working very, very well, according to Facebook's own research within their IQ section, is demotainment. So this stuff would be a little bit like, you know what? That's what I reckon. You know who that guy is? The guy with the potty mouth who lives in Sydney and does all these, no more canned soup stuff, or no more cans pasta, no more tins of jars of pasta sauce guy. And he's got a very big potty mouth. I can't repeat any of this, otherwise we'll get demoted on YouTube when this goes to YouTube. That's what we call demotainment. It's a demonstration of something, but it's also entertainment. And where this is used, you get significantly higher engagement in feed and story posts if you're showing a little bit of entertainment. Now, I see this with my friends as well. When my friends post a video they've recorded them doing some dumb stuff or something really, really different, or they're showing off a dress even. It's something where they're demonstrating, they go, this is the dress I made, isn't it amazing? Here's a little shot of what I did. Here's when I poked I forgot my thimble and ended up poking myself in the thumb with the needle. And they show you all these great little how they did it things. It's really fun and interesting and entertaining. It also gets significantly higher conversion rates in product and service ads. So if you can show some demonstration of what's going, I was talking to a woman in Darwin who is doing it's like a mindset training for women, and it's called Creatrix. And what we notice is on the website for Creatrix is that there is a lot of focus on demonstrating what the actual process is. They show live, real sessions of a Creatrix professional with a client and having breakthroughs right there and then on video. That is what I would call demotainment as well. Not being afraid to show inside, a peek behind the curtain, if you like, of what's going on in that particular thing that you're very good at or that you happen to be selling at the time. It engages higher when it's in posting, and it also engages higher to get more clicks when you want to sell something through product and services ads on any kind of social media. It's why it's so popular. People follow it because we go, the tasty videos you see all the time from BuzzFeed where they're cooking something, you go, holy crap, how they cook that? That looks amazing. And then you try to cook it and it doesn't really turn out the same way. Yeah, they're very, very entertaining and very, very popular because they give you a look behind the scenes of someone who really does know what they're doing and shows you how 5-minute crafts is another one. If you ever want to follow demotainment, those things are hugely popular. And there's a reason why. they get us. They're in our life. They're part of that humanity of ours, and they're a little bit quirky. And the presenters sometimes are quite funny and entertaining, like Nigella Lawson and her microwave instead of a microwave. They find ways of getting us entertained and engaged. We also find that if you diversify your creative, which means using sort of A/B tests between one version and another. So in this case, it might be a pink background and a blue background, and trying to see which one performs better. We find that you get a significantly lower cost per landing page view in ads on Facebook when you use 2 or more variations of these. So it actually shows there's about 9% actually less cost for you if you have 2 different variations. Let's just say you're advertising these Eclipse mints, right? So you have these Eclipse mints on a pink background or on a blue background. By just having those 2 variations that can rotate in your ads, it lowers the amount of money you're going to pay per click or per landing page view when you run those ads. And it also significantly lowers your cost per lead when you're using lead ads, when you use 2 or more variations of that particular ad. The idea is here, not just whacking up one ad and putting on the boost button. When you're doing ads, more than one, definitely more than one, and make them something which is dramatically different to each other. Different model, different product, different background. One could be video, one could be static. It doesn't matter what it is, just show those differences, and it brings down the cost of each action you're going to get in those ads. Now, less text leads to more leads. Nearly 30% more leads, in fact, when there's less text above the ad or less text above the post. So we're talking about having a photo or your gallery or your video, not clumping it up with tons and tons and tons of long format, long to read, what you think is highly convincing copy that's going to be in there. It's just going to get you less leads. People just look at that stuff immediately with all of its emojis and we just go, it's just another scam. It's probably another network marketing scam that someone's trying to run on us. That's the way people think when they see those kind of posts. So reduce the amount of text because you'll get more leads, and the cost per lead is going to be a lot less if you use less than 3 lines of text on an ad. The same thing works for posts as well. Just use video. Say what you need to say in your video rather than trying to say it in text, because there's this magical thing that the kids these days always say. It's TLDR, too long didn't read. And even I'm at 47 years old, and I'm even saying it. So try and keep the words down and the creative stuff up. Add people to your images to lower the cost of your ads and to increase the reach of your posts. When a person was in the creative, it led to more clicks through to conversations, like clicking to call, clicking to start the chat on Messenger, clicking to go through to lead forms, anything that had an action that led to a conversation or starting a conversation with you. It always performed better when there was a picture of a person in that post or a picture of the person in that ad. And when a person was in the ad, it also led to a lower cost per action as we're going. So the thing is there, showing things very early, showing your brand early, making sure it's in there and continually coming up, and then show people in all their beautiful diversity of colors and shapes and sizes and heights and shortness and clothing styles and cultural backgrounds. Use diversity in this, because not everybody who's going to be reading this is going to be the same as you or the same as me. They're going to be from lots of different backgrounds. They may be someone who likes really rotund men like me and this fellow in here as well, as beautiful as he is. And they might be into, people who are you just don't know what people are into. Some people might look at this and be disgusted. Other people look at him and go, be inspired and say, look at him, he's out there exercising, he's trying to lose weight. Others will look at him and go, oh no, don't lose weight. You're beautiful the way you are, whatever it is. Give them a photo or give them a creative with a person in that at least makes them have an opinion about it. Because if they don't have an opinion about it, they don't care. They don't care, they're not going to buy your stuff, are they? So when you add those people, you'll get that lower cost. That's a really important one. Leading with your product. Like, this is a very high impact image, especially if you've got like a brush and the color and bang the brush in and the powder goes everywhere. It's a spectacular way to lead open an ad and highlights your product as well. So when you're opening a video with a product, it led to more clicks to a landing page. Makes sense. If the ad's about that and you want to see what it is and you go, that color's gorgeous, that brush looks amazing, fantastic, you're going to go straight through and click onto it. Leading with a product also led to lower cost per click to product pages when used as ads as well. So there's a lot to be said about leading with a product, whether it's a drink, whether it's food, whether it's a cosmetic, whether it's clothing, whatever it is, movement, motion, the product in there, the brand showing really early. So the brand could be on the stick of that brush, and then would immediately bring the brand in there as well. Get really, really strategic about how you show things without it doesn't have to be a brand logo going whoosh straight up in front of the camera. It can just be the brand shown on the product itself, or worn on a t-shirt, or down in a corner. It doesn't have to be super obvious. It just has to be there. Wow, there's so much to remember, isn't there? I'm glad we're recording this and putting it on YouTube. It'll make it so much easier for you. In these closing minutes, I do want to take you through for a bit of a walk with the Facebook thing being sort of transformed into a metaverse thing. And as much as we hear about this metaverse, most people still have no idea what they're talking about, what this metaverse is, how you can imagine it being used, what's the application for small business. The idea was we have this expectation that we're going to be putting on these goggles and disappearing into a virtual reality world where we're all going to bump into each other and not talk to anyone in the real world and only make friends online and all that. Whilst that is kind of part of it, the reality for the metaverse is going to be more for a while like this. It's going to be more about augmented reality. So it's going to be about, trying on different shoes on your feet. So that's the kind of thing. Or like you can already do, I think, in the Luxottica brands of sunglasses, of glasses, you can go and try on what glasses actually look like on you. The last time when I actually got these glasses from Specsavers, I went to the Specsavers website and tried all the glasses on my face. They take a photo of you turning around like that, with your head spinning, so you can see what the glasses look like. It's a fantastic technology. This kind of stuff is getting more and more common. You can place things. IKEA allows you now, I think, to place furniture in your home. You can now, look inside houses and imagine what your furniture is going to look like by just going, here's my furniture, here's what it looks like. Or, looking at what a car is like. I know Toyota and Subaru were very quick to put in build your own car variations, where you'd have a virtual reality sort of car sitting in front of you, and then you'd add the extras in and just see what it looks like. Because you could see it, you'd more likely want it, because you go, wow, that looks amazing. That's exactly the color I want. This is exactly the accessories I want. The metaverse is going to be less about virtual reality and more about this kind of augmented reality. It's bringing data into the real world, as well as bringing the real world into the online world. It's going to be about trying on different lipsticks, trying on different hairstyles and hair colors. Instead of having to guess what the hair color is going to look like when you put it on at home, you get able to try it on in these kind of formats that give an idea of what your hair would look like if you, with your current hair color, put this color through it. So give you a much more accurate preview about what you can expect to look like when you actually make it work. Wouldn't that be great? Trying on clothes without actually having to try on clothes, so you can know whether that dress looks ridiculous on you, or whether those pants are going to make you look like you're about 2 feet tall, or whether that shirt that you think is really loud and fun actually just makes you look like a giant beach ball. So as I said, Specsavers do this try-on thing. There's many others that do it. Warby Parker in America does it as well. And all the Luxottica brands seem to do it. So you're able to try on the glasses to see what they look like on you. This is what we're expecting to walk into in the future. Now, this is a virtual reality version of H&M. H&M being a very big fashion label and a very big chain of stores all around the world selling men's and women's clothing. The idea here is you have an online avatar, and your online avatar can wear clothing from H&M because you saw something you liked at H&M and you go, oh, my avatar should be able to wear that too. This is where we go into the real virtual reality world, where people are wanting to dress themselves up, not just in the real world, but in the virtual world as well. This virtual product sales is already taken off. Look at the game called Fortnite, where you're buying all sorts of clothing, accessories. It makes billions of dollars every year for virtual products that don't exist in the real world. They only exist in the game Fortnite. So this kind of stuff is going to come to our virtual worlds. And if you think that people aren't going to go into virtual worlds and operate as another person in another world, and maybe even work a job in that world, you got another thing coming, because it's already starting to happen. We're already seeing these views of it. So what the metaverse is taking business from just operating in the real world with real products and real services to virtual products and virtual services. Things like virtual counseling is already something which can transfer to the metaverse. Instead of having to look through Zoom at a person, you feel safer if someone just sees your avatar rather than seeing your face. that will maybe open up a whole new world in mental health that allows people to be able to share more detailed and intimate details with their counselor, because the counselor actually can't see who that real person is. They just see an avatar. So that may be sounding like a utopian nightmare to you, or it might be sounding like a dystopian nightmare to you, but this is something which is going to happen and is already starting to happen. So you can prepare yourself basically by starting with what is called Spark AR. Spark AR is Meta's own version of how to start this whole try-on thing. So you can design masks, you can design makeup, you can design different hairstyles, hats, clothing as overlays onto what you really look like. And then the future will be then you can have avatars that will use Spark AR to try on virtual clothes, virtual glasses, virtual accessories, all that kind of thing. Spark AR has now got really easy to follow lessons at sparkar.facebookblueprint.com, where you can start to work through those. Now I'm doing my certification in this at the moment, so I can actually teach others like you on this program how to start doing these things. This includes, profile overlays and special, masks and hats and clothing that people can wear virtually on their real bodies, on a real photo of them, or that they can wear in virtual photos and virtual avatars online as well. It does sound like a really weird future, but honestly, when you've got a guide to go and do it with, it's going to be a whole lot easier. So if you want to dig more into this Facebook and Instagram and Meta future with a guide, you can do it through the Digital Solutions Program. Just $44 will get you through 3 hours of one-to-one advisory with myself and others on the program. You get a whole lot of workshops as well. You're unlimited to get those. Just register if you haven't already at businessstation.com.au. I'd love to see you on the program. You can learn all sorts of stuff, really. If you'd like to reach out to me and ask any questions about any of this, you've been very quiet today, so thank you for being studious students. Dante at businessstation.com.au is my email address. You can also get hold of me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and I'll tell you now, LinkedIn is probably where you get most likely to get hold of me. What I'd like to say, though, is thank you so much for taking part of this and taking some time out of your business to learn more stuff for your business. My name's Dante St. James, and I'll see you in the next one of these videos.